Hello, welcome back to the channel. I am the Disc Golf Nerd, and today we're going to talk about my top 5 favorite Flippy understable discs of all time. I got a putter, a mid-range, a 7-speed, a 9-speed, and also a distance driver. Most of these are discs that kind of go in and out of my bag depending on where I'm playing and the course conditions, what I might need for that particular course. And then the Thrasher right here on top that you're seeing this whole time is no longer a disc that I really throw at this point, but it is something that I threw a ton and has to be my favorite truly understable distance driver that I've ever used. So before we dig into the video, quick shout out to my two main sponsors, NSH Custom Discs, Upper Park Disc Golf. Same code, Disc Golf Nerd 10 will get you discounts at both of those places, but at Upper Park the discount is now 15%. I'm getting a bigger cut from the commissions. You guys are getting a bigger percentage off when you use my code, but I wanted to keep the code the same in case you guys found my older content. Make sure you're able to use the code that's in those older videos. So Disc Golf Nerd 10 will save you money at both of my main sponsors. Link in the description for all the information about all of that. And we're going to lead off, as we said, with the Big Z Thrasher. Now, I did a bunch of videos about Thrashers. They've been in the bag videos for a number of years. This is probably my favorite one overall that I've thrown a lot. I have a few that I still hold on to, even though they're not something that I carry anymore, and I dabble with them occasionally, but they really haven't worked out for me as well as they used to. I ended up switching to the Havoc because it's more stable overall. It's not as inherently flippy for my arm, so it doesn't really fit this category because it doesn't have as much natural flip to it as the Thrashers do. Now, this one in particular was a 170 Big Z Thrasher. You can see it's a 12-speed, but it's not like giant rim. And this is a really great overall distance driver for lower arm speeds. The Thrasher is something I think a lot of players would benefit from if you were to give it a try. If you're a lower arm speed player, it's going to be pretty straight up to speed. It'll flip up for you a little bit. Might ride out a little bit. If you have any kind of like average to bigger arm, it's going to start moving right naturally. Good roller disc out of the box. Good disc that will hold a long turnover without turning and burning for players with bigger arms and more arm speed than me. But the Thrasher was a go-to workhorse for me. Some of them are not understable at all, depending on the run. The the old Proto flat top Proto and Worlds Thrashers are not understable really at all. They're pretty stable to almost slightly overstable, and some of the other runs. So you can layer these quite effectively, get a lot of different shots. But the Big Z and regular Z ones definitely tend to be quite understable. ESP as well. The flat top 165 ESP I used to have in my bag was one of the most understable distance drivers I ever had. Thrasher is a great disc. I recommend to just about anybody, and it's got to be my favorite high-speed flippy disc that I've ever really had in the bag. But again, I switched to the Havoc just because I was having trouble controlling the Thrashers after a while. Some of my go-tos, like this one, got pretty beat and got a decent amount of wear on them and stuff. And I found the Havoc to be a little bit more consistent, but still a solid mold. Moving on from there, one of my favorite individual discs in my collection. You can see how fingerprinty this thing's gotten. This is a Fury. This is Dick Fury, and this is the disc I got the best ace of my entire life with at hole 7 at Stub Stewart. When was that? Damn, back in 2018 already. Incredible ace that I'll never forget. Really cool moment. And this disc made it possible, and I really love this disc. It's easy roller disc. If you're trying to learn how to throw rollers, the Fury is fantastic for that. Great straight flying, kind of all-around driver for people with very low arm speed. For me, I'm always looking for this thing to kind of move right. You can see it's 9-speed, so it doesn't have too much of a rim to it. I don't know if there's any flight numbers on this. It might be before that. The reason I started throwing this particular disc is because I don't really have a forehand drive. So I discovered this 165 Opto Fury. It's very flippy naturally, straight out of the box. It really hasn't changed all that much, even though I've thrown it so much. Started out flippy, it's still flippy. It's not really that much more flippy as well. So great disc to be reliably understable. And yeah, I didn't really have much of a forehand drive, so I was typically throwing this looking for it to move right and stay moving right hard throughout the flight, and it's fantastic for that. Flip up turnovers or really dead straight shots all the way with a lot of hyzer on release, or easy quick flip roller disc, but disc that I don't always carry. Woods rounds or specific courses that I know I need that shot for, I will carry that disc still. Moving on to the 7-speed fairway driver. This one is the newest one out of all these in terms of release and also its kind of use in my bag. And this is one I just put back in the bag. This is the Innova IT. This is a DX IT. I have a couple of G Stars. I have a Protostar as well, but I find the DX is my favorite one. It's just, I love the release on it. I love the flight. It's reliably flippy out of the box, but it's still controllable enough for me that I can get it to flip up and ride and come back. Again, extremely easy disc to throw rollers with. If you're trying to learn rollers, this would be a great disc to break out. And also, again, a very, very friendly disc for very low arm speeds. I actually played with a gentleman we ran into the other day out at Vance, and we were showing him the layout because he hadn't played there before. And he was throwing nothing but mid-ranges because he has low arm speed, and I respect that very much. But this is also, you know, a little bit of a quicker disc that has a little bit more distance potential than most mid-ranges, but still very understable, very easy to throw. This is definitely a very friendly disc. You can see it's got that really nice, smooth, rounded outside edge to it, almost like kind of sweeps up. I think you can probably see it's got a little bit of a dome around the outside, but then it's relatively flat in the dead center. Smooth releasing disc that I really like and just put back in the bag. I think I'll use it at least this winter. The Fuse is the mid-range of choice for this list. Now, I thought about the Meteor, but it's been so long since I've thrown the Meteor, and if I had to pick one, you know, to carry, obviously I'm going to go with the Fuse at this point, and I've been using it exclusively as my flippy mid-range for a few years now. Now, just recently I started throwing something else, the Jester Discs Peace Train, that I'm kind of testing as a replacement for the Fuse. But the Fuse is a phenomenal straight flying disc overall. It's not super flippy, you know, like the Meteor is more flippy. But this thing is definitely understable. If you throw it flat, it will move to the right naturally for most arm speeds. You want to put it on hyzer if you want it to fly straight. Great disc for turnovers, like such a cash money turnover mid-range disc. This thing holds a beautiful left to right on a backhand, and it's a great flip-up straight flying disc as well. Really versatile. Again, phenomenal disc for new players. And the Fuse is just awesome. It's a legendary disc for Latitude at this point. It's one of their earliest discs, and they kind of like nailed it. You know, this thing is still just as relevant and useful as it ever was right now. And see, it's got a very smooth shape to it. Nothing terribly remarkable. This Opto is also getting fingerprinty in my collection, but the grip is just unbelievable. Like, you can hear how grippy that is. A little bit of light sparkle in this one. Fuse is amazing disc. It has to be my overall favorite flippy mid-range of all time, but the Meteor is definitely in the discussion as well. And finally, rounding out the video with my favorite disc of all time, let alone my favorite flippy putter, and that is the Discraft Soft Magnet. Pro D Soft Magnet. Love these old 3 and 4 chains. It's got to be somewhat warped. It's got to be beat up like this. Now, I've never really had a flippy putter, you know, in the bag that's like flippy straight out of the box, other than probably the Keystone was as close as I've gotten to that. And the Keystone kind of flies brand new like one of these beat up soft magnets does. So I used that for a little while. I found it to be really effective as a replacement for these type of discs. But I have enough of these used soft magnets, and they're just my favorite. So I went back to them recently again, and it has just been phenomenal. It's been doing great work for me out there. I throw it on hyzer basically at all times. Even if I want it to move right, I'll throw it down on hyzer, snap it with enough spin that it'll stand up, and then start swinging out to the right. Best downhill disc I've ever used. It just holds a straight line down a hill like nothing else on the market for me. And yeah, since these are always been kind of beat up that I've used, I've never really had any fresh ones. They still fly okay, brand new, you know, I can still use them, but they don't have that beautiful flip flight to them like I like these soft ones to have. And I love these little indentations, like see the way these little waffles happen, my thumb tucks in there. I absolutely adore that as well. The only thing I'm not really doing with a soft magnet ever is throwing it like on a hyzer. I'm never throwing like a hyzer shot with a magnet. Maybe like a really floaty one, but you know, I'll switch to a slammer or a harp, you know, even one of my daggers to throw a more stable shot with a putter on approach. But this thing, I'm looking for it to fly laser straight, or move to the right to some degree. And yeah, the soft magnet's just phenomenal. So a little bit of a cheat here because it's not a super flippy disc straight off the shelf, but these old beat up soft magnets are not hard to find. I think all the ones I have and throw, other than my original one, all came out of the used bin at the Disc Golf Depot, just looking just like this, chewed up, you know, paid $3-4 for them, some of them, and just been throwing them for years and years and years, and they continue to work great. Soft magnet, fantastic, but it's got to be orange, beat up, 3 or 4 chain. Yellow is also fine. The one I throw the most these days is actually yellow 4-chain. I don't feel like dragging out of my bag, but that orange one right there is kind of the one that I really associate with is those orange ones. But that is my top 5 favorite Flippy understable discs of all time. Let me know in the comments what are some of your favorite Flippy discs. Is there anything I missed? Is there anything you're surprised wasn't on my list? I will also have another video coming out soon where I add to these all the other interesting Flippy discs I have in my inventory to do another mass collection type video. Probably post that next week, perhaps, so keep an eye out for that. Thank you so much for your support, for watching the videos, for subscribing. My subscriber count continues to grow little by little, but my view counts are kind of bad, so please like the video, subscribe, maybe share it with your friends if you're into this sort of thing. Huge shout out to the Disc Golf Nerd Patreon support team as always, and I will talk to you all very soon. Cheers.